Somewhere between getting abandoned in a parking lot with $5.55 and watching a stranger smash through a window to help deliver her baby, Novalee Nation decided she was going to be okay. And if you were watching, you decided it with her. Where the Heart Is hit theaters April 28, 2000, and immediately became the kind of movie critics dismissed and audiences held on to for life. Part love story, part found family drama, part argument that you can survive anything if you keep a careful enough notebook. Natalie Portman played Novalee Nation, 17 years old and 7 months pregnant, abandoned in a Sequoia, Oklahoma Walmart by a boyfriend with a guitar and no conscience. She doesn't call for help. She hides in the garden center, catalogs every item she uses so she can pay it back someday, and goes into labor alone during a thunderstorm. Ashley Judd was Lexi, the nurse who names all her kids after snack foods and loves every wrong man in Oklahoma. Stockard Channing was Sister Husband, possibly the best character name in cinema history, who hands out photocopied Bible verses and Buckeye trees with equal conviction. And Sally Field, two-time Oscar winner and cinema's most beloved mother, showed up as the mother who steals the money and leaves. Matt Williams, creator of Roseanne, making his feature debut, directed from a screenplay by the writers behind Parenthood and A League of Their Own, based on Billie Letts' 3 million copy Oprah pick. It cost $15 million, made $40 million, earned 34% from critics and 76% from the audience. Today we're counting down 15 things you didn't know, including the time Walmart refused to sell the book set inside a Walmart, the Star Wars merchandise the crew had to erase from the shelves, and the career decision that makes no sense until you learn what was happening behind it. Before we dive in, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the films that shaped us. Let's get into the countdown with number 15. Number 15, Walmart refused the book, then starred in the movie. Billie Letts published Where the Heart Is in 1995. She was 57 years old, a retired English professor from southeastern Oklahoma State University. It was her first novel, expanded from a short story about a pregnant teenager who secretly takes up residence in a Walmart, and Walmart, the corporation at the literal center of the story, declined to carry it. Their reason, as Letts told Entertainment Weekly, they originally said that the book did not reflect well on Walmart. Hold on. A novel in which a desperate girl finds shelter, warmth, community, and eventually a home inside a Walmart. And Walmart said bad press. For 3 years, the book sold modestly. Then, in December 1998, Oprah Winfrey selected it for her book club. It shot to number 1 on the New York Times paperback bestseller list. 14 countries, 3 million copies worldwide. As Letts put it, Oprah has some clout. Walmart had to stock it. 2 years later, 20th Century Fox made the film and shot it inside real Walmarts across Central Texas, with Walmart's full cooperation. The retailer that said the story reflected poorly on them ended up starring in the movie. The Walmart in Lockhart, Texas, where most of the interior scenes were filmed, has since been converted into a county judicial facility. The company vacated. The novel outlasted the building. Number 14. The TV genius who couldn't escape television. Matt Williams arrived on the set not as a film director. He arrived as the creator of Roseanne, one of the most consequential sitcoms in television history, and the co-creator of Home Improvement, which ran for 8 seasons and made Tim Allen a household name. He'd also written for The Cosby Show and co-created A Different World. He had produced films. He had never directed one. His feature debut was this movie. First time behind a camera on a feature, ever. Critics felt it immediately. Reviews noted the film had the pacing of a sitcom, the emotional beats of a half-hour comedy. And if you've seen a lot of sitcoms in your life, you feel it too. One critic wrote that Williams and his screenwriters fall back on their TV sitcom roots. Another said the characters spit out redneck one-liners. A third, and this is a real sentence someone published, wrote that, compared to Where the Heart Is, the Walmart commercials seem like cinema verite. The bitter irony? Williams had spent his entire career building emotionally honest portraits of working-class families. The Connors in Roseanne, the Taylors in Home Improvement. Finding the humor and heartbreak in ordinary American life, that was his gift. It was precisely what Billie Letts' novel called for. He was, on paper, the most qualified director in Hollywood to make this film, and the consensus was that he couldn't find it on screen. Number 13. Ashley Judd's career didn't fade by accident. 6 months before, where The Hardest started filming, Ashley Judd starred in Double Jeopardy. The numbers: $177.8 million worldwide, #1 at the domestic box office, the biggest film of her career. She was the queen of the smart thriller: Kiss the Girls, A Time to Kill, Heat. If you were going to the movies in the late 90s, you knew exactly what an Ashley Judd film promised. Hollywood had her right where it wanted her. Then she went to Texas and played a single mom who names all her kids after snack foods. No chase, no thriller. A $15 million ensemble drama where she was supporting an 18-year-old. She later said it was a little irritating in a weird way that people remembered her thrillers more than this film. But her career never recaptured Double Jeopardy's momentum. And for years, the explanation was just, she made different choices. It wasn't just choices. In 2017, Judd became one of the first women named in the New York Times investigation that broke the Harvey Weinstein story. That same month, director Peter Jackson told New Zealand publication Stuff that Miramax, meaning Weinstein, had warned him off casting Judd in Lord of the Rings, telling him she was a nightmare to work with and should be avoided at all costs. Jackson said this was probably in 1998. He confirmed her name was removed from their casting list as a direct result. Judd responded on Twitter, "I remembered this well. She didn't know for 20 years. So when she stepped away from a $177 million hit to make this film, she was stepping away from a genre where someone had already been closing doors on her for years. She thought she was making a choice." Number 12. The Walmart scene. Almost had too much Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman grew up on Long Island in Washington, D.C., on film sets across Europe. She had somehow, in 18 years, never set foot inside a Walmart. "I had never been to a Walmart before the film," she told Entertainment Weekly, "and I fell in love with them. They're the greatest places." Now hold on. When the crew filmed the interior scenes in Lockhart, Texas, the shelves were stocked with current merchandise. Current merchandise in summer 1999 included a substantial amount of Star Wars, the Phantom Menace product, action figures, posters, boxed sets, all of them featuring Natalie Portman's face as Queen Amidala. The crew went aisle by aisle and pulled every piece of it before cameras rolled. IMDb records this with perfect understatement. Myriad Star Wars merchandise, prominently depicting Natalie Portman as Queen Amidala, had to be removed to preserve the suspension of disbelief. So, picture the situation. Same building, same shoot, same morning. An actress discovering Walmart for the first time. Her own face being systematically pulled from the shelves around her. The character she was playing, who has memorized every aisle, who catalogs every item she uses, was being portrayed by someone who had no idea where the garden center was. Number 11. The great writers who couldn't adapt the bestseller. Lowell Ganz and Babaloo Mandel are not people you hire for something slight. Their credits included Night Shift, Splash, Spies Like Us, Parenthood, City Slickers, A League of Their Own, and EdTV. Academy Award nominations. The Writers Guild of America later gave them the Laurel Award for Screenwriting Achievement, their highest career honor. Two of the most commercially successful comedy drama writers Hollywood had produced. They adapted where the heart is. Critics demolished the screenplay. The core complaint. The characters don't have conversations, they deliver punchlines. One review said the dialogue landed with the wit of a regional open mic night. Another noted Ganz and Mandel had also written for Laverne and Shirley, and that those instincts had apparently survived the intervening decades. The warmth and darkness that makes Billie Letts' novel work didn't make it to the screen. Here's the part that genuinely doesn't add up. Parenthood, which Ganz and Mandel wrote for Ron Howard in 1989, does exactly that. If you've seen it, you know. Comedy and grief in the same scene, without flinching. And Parenthood is also a working-class family story. And Ron Howard, like Matt Williams, came from television. The setup was nearly identical. The result was completely different. Nobody has ever convincingly explained why. They all just moved on. Whatever it was, Let's Oklahoma Register, or three television veterans all pulling the same direction, or something about this particular novel that refused to adapt. Two of Hollywood's most decorated writers produced one of their most criticized scripts from a book 3 million people had already loved. And here's the kicker. After this film, they went on to write Robots, Fever Pitch, and Tooth Fairy. None of those films follow them around. This one does. You get one failure for every 20 successes in Hollywood, and this was theirs. Number 10. Stockard Channing played both ends of America. Here is Stockard Channing's schedule in the summer of 1999, June 21st to August 26th. Central Texas, playing sister husband, blue-haired, Bible verse photocopying, Buckeye tree gifting, generous and strange, a woman of deep peculiarity and unexpected grace living in a tin-roof trailer on the edge of a small Oklahoma town. The West Wing premiered on NBC on September 22, 1999, 3.5 weeks after she wrapped Where the Heart Is. In The West Wing, Channing played Abigail Bartlett, Harvard-educated physician, first lady, and the sharpest person in any room she entered. The exact opposite of sister husband in every measurable dimension. She was a recurring guest in the show's first 2 seasons, then became a series regular from season 3, 6 Emmy nominations, 1 in 2002. So, when Where the Heart Is opened in April 2000, The West Wing had already been on the air for 7 months. If you went to see Channing in theaters as the eccentric with a Buckeye tree, you could go home and watch her on NBC as one of the most powerful women on American television the same night. The distance between those two characters, in class, in power, in the way each woman occupies a room, is roughly the entire width of American life. Number 9, the movie changed Novalee's bad luck number. In Billie Letts' novel, Novalee's unlucky number is 7. She's abandoned with $7.77 and change. The story spans 7 years. Her 7th birthday is the day her mother left. The number runs through the book like a thread, the texture of Novalee's bad luck, the way it feels fated rather than random. The film changed it to 5. The $7.77 became $5.55. 7 years became 5. The reason was structural. The novel's 7-year span needed 2 time jumps. The screenplay could only handle 1 clean cut. Compressed to 5 years, you lose a jump. So, the number changed and the timeline shrank with it. If you read the book first, you caught it immediately. The $7.77 figure is in the first paragraph. The movie came out, and it was $5.55, and you felt it before you could explain why. It's a small change. It's also a perfect illustration of what adaptation costs. Letts didn't give Novalee an unlucky number for convenience. She built an entire world around that number. Change it to 5, and the plot survives intact. Same beats, same ending, same girl in the same Walmart. But her bad luck goes from feeling like fate to feeling like coincidence. Number 8, critics saw a mess. Audiences saw themselves. When Where the Heart Is opened, critics were not kind. Metacritic, 30 out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes, 34%. The consensus, still sitting on the page today. Poor script and messy plot undermines the decent cast. Individual reviews went harder. One called it the worst because it does not allow the consolation of laughing at it. Others called it contrived, banal, an advertisement for discount retail. One critic, apparently needing to go further, called it one big advertisement for Walmart and its trailer park clientele. The audience disagreed. $8.3 million opening weekend. $33.8 million domestic total on a $15 million budget. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, 76%. That's a 42-point gap between critics and viewers, and it hasn't moved in 25 years. What the critics were measuring: script coherence, tonal control, regional authenticity. What the audience was responding to: a story about a girl with nothing who built something real from wherever she landed, with people who showed up for her when no institution would. If you've ever been in the second group, you already know which score matters to you. And speaking of the cast, one of the performances that audiences kept coming back to lasts exactly 4 minutes on screen, delivered by a 2-time Oscar winner playing the opposite of everything she'd ever been cast as. That's coming up. Number 7, Natalie Portman made smart her shield. Natalie Portman has said in many interviews that she'd rather be smart than a movie star. It lands as ambition. The story underneath it is something else. She made her debut in The Professional at age 12. Shortly after, she opened her first piece of fan mail. It was a threatening letter from an adult man describing what he wanted to do to her. She was 13. She later described the experience in public terms that left no ambiguity, and said she understood very quickly that the world had already decided what she was, and that if she played along with it, she would not be safe. From that point forward, she made a conscious calculation. Be serious, be intellectual, let the roles be adult and grounded. She turned down roles that made her uncomfortable. She pushed back on scenes until they were rewritten. She chose Harvard. Where the Heart Is was her first starring role, and it completed that transition. She played a young mother, aging into adulthood on her own terms. She filmed a first for her career, a vulnerable scene she'd always controlled carefully, with a close friend in a restrained context by her own decision. Then she moved into a Harvard dorm room. The Harvard decision gets framed as intellectual ambition. It was also armor, and she proved it. She graduated with honors in 2003. Under her real name, Natalie Hirschlag, she co-authored a peer-reviewed paper in the journal Neuroimage. If you'd read it without knowing who wrote it, you'd have no idea. That was the whole idea. Number 6, the 4-minute role that betrayed Sally Field's image. Sally Field won her first Oscar playing a union organizer fighting for her factory workers in Norma Rae. She won her second playing a Depression-era widow holding her farm together in Places in the Heart. She played Tom Hanks' mother in Forrest Gump, possibly the most recognized maternal figure in 1990s cinema, the woman who said, "Life is like a box of chocolates." She was the warm, chaotic center of Steel Magnolias, the mother at the center of Mrs. Doubtfire, whose ex-husband disguised himself as a housekeeper just to stay close to their children. In Where the Heart Is, she played Mama Lil. Mama Lil shows up after seeing Novalee on television. She abandoned her daughter years earlier and never looked back. She takes in the situation and disappears with the donated money. That's the whole arc. Arrive, assess, steal, leave. She gets one line. It's about the man who got Novalee pregnant, and it involves a word Sally Field does not typically use on screen. The audience laughs. She does not come back. Field was 52. The role is 4 minutes of screen time, maximum. The casting works because of everything the audience brings in with them. The warmth, the devotion, the 2 Oscars, all of it is the subtext the scene runs on. You need to feel the specific wrongness of this woman doing this to this girl. An unknown actress is just a bad mother in a movie. Sally Field is the betrayal of every expectation she has ever built. 4 minutes of screen time. 2 Oscars in the drawer. 1 exit without looking back. Number 5. One Family. Gave Oklahoma. Its warmth and its fire. Billie Letts' husband, Dennis, appears in Where the Heart Is as the sheriff. Small role, a few lines, played with the quiet authority of someone who has spent his whole life in Oklahoma, which he had. Dennis had been an English professor for 30 years. He took up acting at 50 and accumulated more than 40 film and television credits, including small roles in Castaway and A Perfect World. He also edited all of Billie's novels. The man who helped shape the book and manuscript showed up in the film to enforce the law in it. Their son is Tracy Letts. Tracy wrote August, Osage County, a devastating, brilliantly funny portrait of a catastrophically dysfunctional Oklahoma family. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2008 and 5 Tony Awards. His mother once described the gap between their creative instincts. "I try to be upbeat and funny. Everybody in Tracy's stories ends up unclothed or deceased." The patriarch in August, Osage County, the role the entire play hinges on, was originated by Dennis Letts, his own father. Dennis edited Billie's warm novel about Oklahoma grace and community. He appeared in the film as a figure of gentle authority. Then he walked into a Chicago theater and became the vanishing patriarch in his son's scorched earth reckoning with the same state, same man, same Oklahoma. Completely different truth about it, and he held both without contradiction. Number 4. Billie Letts. Spent decades writing before the world listened. Billie Letts had been writing her whole adult life. Poetry, screenplays, short stories. None of it found an audience. She taught English and creative writing at Southeastern Oklahoma State University for 30 years. She was also, for context, an avid Democrat who at age 69 was handcuffed and arrested while protesting an appearance by then Vice President Dick Cheney in Tulsa. She was not someone who went quietly anywhere. Where the Heart Is began as a short story. The idea, a pregnant teenager secretly living in a Walmart, wouldn't let her go. She expanded it, published 1995. She was 57 years old, her debut. For most writers who break through at 57, the path ends there. One book, a warm reception in regional circles, modest sales, and a graceful acknowledgement that the window has closed. Letts' window blew open. Oprah called in December 1998. Hollywood followed. A movie shot inside Walmarts with Natalie Portman. Her official obituary describes the journey. It was not until she expanded a short story into the novel Where the Heart Is that her writing found an audience. If you've spent years making something that didn't find its audience, that sentence will stay with you. She died in August 2014, age 76, 30 years teaching other people to write. One idea that wouldn't let her go, The Call from Chicago. She lived to see all of it. Number 3, Where the Heart Is never set foot in Oklahoma. Every frame of Sequoia, Oklahoma, is Central Texas. The Walmart is in Lockhart, Texas. The courthouse square is in Lockhart. The streets Novalee walks. The hotel exterior where Forney grieves his sister. The library shots, all Texas. The scene where Willie Jack arrives in Nashville is 6th Street in Austin. The college campus near the end is Baylor University in Waco. Production ran June 21st to August 26th, 1999. On schedule, on budget, never crossed the Oklahoma border, not once. The reason was money. Texas offered sales tax exemptions for film productions. Oklahoma, in 1999, had nothing comparable. Central Texas small towns looked enough like rural Oklahoma. The flat light, the courthouse squares, the unhurried geometry of them, that the swap was invisible to anyone not looking for it. One critic flagged that the accents of people supposedly from the same region varied wildly and were generally unconvincing. Texas doubling for Oklahoma didn't solve the dialect problem. The landscapes were seamless. The voices gave it away. And here's the part that should bother any fan of the novel. Where the Heart Is specifically about the character of a small Oklahoma community. The way a place like that forms around a stranger in need. That Oklahoma warmth isn't window dressing. It's the whole emotional argument of the story. And you're watching it happen in Lockhart, Texas, where the barbecue is outstanding and the accents are different. Oklahoma has since built a film incentive program. Reservation Dogs, Tulsa King, Killers of the Flower Moon, all shot there. The state figured it out. Roughly a quarter century after the film set in Oklahoma chose Texas instead. Number 2, Dennis Letts gave his final performance on Broadway. Dennis Letts had wanted to be an actor his whole life. His son Tracy's first memory of theater was watching his father play Atticus Finch in a community production of To Kill a Mockingbird. Dennis spent 30 years teaching literature, with community theater on weekends, then built a second career after retirement, more than 40 screen credits, including a small role in Where the Heart Is as the sheriff in his wife's film, and supporting parts in Castaway and A Perfect World. He showed up wherever the family's work needed him. In summer 2007, Tracy's play August, Osage County opened at Steppenwolf in Chicago. Dennis was cast as Beverly Weston, the Oklahoma patriarch whose disappearance sets the entire catastrophe in motion. The role of his life. He was 72. In September 2007, Dennis was diagnosed with a serious illness, lung cancer, that he chose not to let end his time with the production. The play was moving to Broadway. Dennis was asked if he wanted to continue. He said yes. He went to New York. He performed 8 shows a week in a major Broadway house, through active treatment, almost until he physically could not. He died February 22, 2008. If you want to understand what that means, 8 shows a week is a full working week on a Broadway stage, under lights, in a play about a man at the end of his life, while facing his own. He never told the audience. He just showed up. The Pulitzer Prize for Drama was awarded in April 2008. 5 Tony Awards followed. Number 1, Walmart was the setting. Novalee was the point. Pull the thread. 1995. Billie Letts publishes a novel about a girl who finds a life inside a Walmart. Walmart says it doesn't reflect well on them. 1998. Oprah makes the call. Walmart stocks it. 3 million copies sold. 2000. 20th Century Fox films the movie inside real Walmarts. Critics give it 34% on Rotten Tomatoes. Several reviewers called it a commercial for discount retail dressed up as a drama. The audience gives it 76%. 2025. The film is still streaming. New viewers still find it. The 42-point gap has not moved. The movie survived not because it's a perfect film. The critics weren't entirely wrong. But it told the story of someone stranded in the last place anyone would think to look, building a life from the materials at hand. And that turned out to matter to a very large number of people who never see themselves at the center of anything. The store was the setting. The girl with the notebook was the point. Walmart said the book didn't reflect well on them. If you watch this movie and it got you through something, it reflects on you. And that's the whole point. And there you have it. 15 things you didn't know about where the heart is. Which of these hit hardest? Let us know in the comments. And tell us which film we should wade into next. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss the next one. Until next time.